Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
What to do when you want a big movie weekend. It's always exciting when there's big movies opening. Lately, ever since the pandemic, it's like one movie every other weekend over the summer, right? But never two major movies competing for your attention the same weekend. But we've got
so
it
different.
Now. It's very different. Barbieheimer, that would be the Barbie film and the Oppenheimer film, both available. And honestly, whichever is your preference, apparently has become this psychological litmus test. It's like a personality thing.
Who are you?
Exactly. Are you a Barbie or are you an Oppenheimer? Well, here's a better question. Are these movies worth it? Brett Dasovic, he is the host of the Pop Culture Crisis Show at the Timcast YouTube channel. Brett, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So everyone's wanting an insight into my personality. I see these two movies as a no-brainer. Barbie looks stupid, vapid, pathetic, obnoxious. Other than seeing Margot Robbie in some pretty hot clothes, I'm not interested. Oppenheimer looks like the kind of movie that I will remember for a decade. So tell me where I'm wrong.
Okay, so I'll give you some insight first because I heard you point out, you said they're so different. Both of these films are so different, and it's been a long time since we've seen two films come out at the same time that are both on the opening weekend that are vying for your attention. Yeah. Actually, in 2008, Mamma Mia and The Dark Knight came out on the same weekend, and oddly enough, The Dark Knight being a Christopher Nolan movie, and Oppenheimer being a Christopher Nolan movie. Look, we went to see Barbie last night, and I'm seeing Oppenheimer tonight. Barbie's not for me. I'm a dude. It's not for me. I will say this. There is some very, very heavy feminist messaging in the movie that you would not have known because the Mattel company and Warner Brothers ran one of the greatest sleight of hand marketing campaigns that you will ever see for a film. But I will say this, that there will be ladies out there that I think will get something from this movie. None of the men that I saw leaving the theater with their girlfriends seemed to have much that they thought of it. But the women will have to come out and support it. That's the thing, is in Hollywood for about the last decade or so or longer, they've been increasing what they call female representation, but it tends to be in male-centric films. Yeah. And this is a movie that's actually for women. So, whether you agree with feminism, third-wave feminism, whatever your thoughts are on that, the women should come out and support this movie if they want to see more things geared toward them to be made.
Yeah, I'm really not interested in watching a movie about this fictional, oppression of women in this country. But on the other hand, there is Ryan Gosling. Okay.
Again, look, I can't speak. He is actually probably the best part of the movie, which some might find ironic. Look, if I was to give it like the fairest review possible, it's that when the movie leans into the absurd themes that it has, both visually, the feminist marketing, the feminist messaging doesn't come off as mean-spirited, but when the film tries to make a point, when the film leans into those aspects as real-world concerns, because the world they're portraying it's not the world we live in today. Yeah. It's just not.
Wow.
When it leans into those in a serious way, it feels mean-spirited. And Greta Gerwig is a feminist director. This is, Little Women. There's a lot of things that she's made that lean that direction. But I will give Mattel and Warner Brothers credit because they're going to make a lot of money this weekend off that film. Whether that means they get a good second weekend, that remains to be seen.
Well, that's a very insightful point. It's impossible for them to not have a big opening weekend. Amen. But does it sustain? Do you get word of mouth to people, or do people walk away saying, "Oh, this was crap"? Let me tell you a movie that actually had a bigger second weekend than I believe first weekend, Sound of Freedom, which just broke $100 million. And they didn't have this marketing budget. They didn't have the production budget. What do you make of this phenomenon and this whole new paradigm of Angel Studios and the way they're going about bringing a film to market?
It's incredible. And if you want to talk about not having the marketing budget, if you go to the film, the movie posters on the wall are like low-res like .jpegs that are like you can barely tell what's on there because they didn't have the money or the budget and they didn't expect the movie to do this well. And I've been tracking this film since 2018 or 2019 when Jim Caviezel first started talking about the fact that the film had been pulled during the Disney-Fox merger. They decided not to move forward with it. Disney decided not to move forward with it. And it's gone through this incredible journey to finally make it to screen, and seeing it succeed has been absolutely incredible. They had on the Timcast show, not on our show, but on the main show, they had Tim Ballard on last week, and his story is incredible, and the success of this film should actually give Hollywood pause about the ideas of where they're putting their money, because there are audiences for these films if you're willing to make them.
You know, that's such a good point. And you know, we have The Sound of Freedom, and occasionally we'll see sort of a regular studio produce a movie. You know, the American Sniper comes to mind. Yeah. Of course, that was Clint Eastwood, who's a known conservative. But at what point do some of the other major studios and even television start to get the message that there's money to be made in these sort of thoughtful movies that might have a more conservative edge to them?
I think you're going to have a hard time. The studios, look, right now, Disney is posting $800 million in losses from Disney Plus, Peacock over $1 billion. There's whether you're talking about the fact that a lot of their investment now comes from environmental social governance funding, ESG, and stakeholder capitalism. There's very little in the way of incentive these days for them to appeal to those markets. Amazon is an interesting example because when they do their fantasy and sci-fi stuff, it tends to get butchered and ruined, but they left the show Reacher well enough alone, and Alan Ritchson does a fantastic job in that show. And the same with The Terminalist with Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt himself is a very, very polarizing figure in Hollywood to begin with. You'll find gems here and there, but unfortunately, I think the market, especially with the strike coming and everything, is what people are learning is you're going to have to go to independents to find these things now.
Hey, real fast, I'm not going to ask you about Oppenheimer since you haven't seen it, but I'm curious about your impression of Barbie for the same interest that Julie just pointed out in Ryan Gosling appearing in the film. If a boyfriend or husband is dragged to see Barbie, is there enough of the similar Margot Robbie experience, let's say?
He's asking if there's nudity.
Not nudity, but just really just like great hotness, I guess is what I'm asking.
She is a gorgeous woman, and you will see her in gorgeous outfits the whole film, and that's really the point for a lot of the men that are going, I am sure.
It might be enough to carry it through.
If she's dragging you if your girlfriend is dragging you to the film and you guys switch off picking up, deciding what movie you go to see every weekend, you can use that as your excuse to go to the movie and just kind of let your brain glaze over and ignore the feminist messaging, pay attention to Margot Robbie.
Right. And then, ladies, reward your husband and boyfriend for going to the movie with you later in the evening.
My husband will not be tortured.
Thank you, Matt. Hey, great analysis. I really appreciate it. Fun conversation.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
You guys, and give Tim our best. You guys are doing great stuff over there.
Yeah,
we're big fans.
Will do. Thank you very much.
It is 8:40.